My name is Hazelmillichamp and this is the Light on Leeds podcast. For this episode, Elizabeth Rose is my fascinating guest. She is the lead coordinator of the Leeds Festival of Gothica. She tells me all about Leeds' long history with the alternative scene. It's just fascinating. Elizabeth also tells me about being a trustee of the Sophie Lancaster Foundation. It's a really great episode and I think you're going to really enjoy it. On this episode of the Light on Leeds podcast, I have Elizabeth Rose, who is connected to speak to me. Hello, Elizabeth.
Hello, Hazel.
It's very, very nice to speak to you. And today, I think you've got lots of hats, but today you've come as the lead coordinator of Leeds Festival of Gothica. Can you tell me what that is?
So Leeds Festival of Gothica was created from a conversation at Leeds City Museum way back in sort of late 2016. I was doing a piece of work in my day job, which is in health and social care, and one of the exhibits was being removed, and I'd asked the curator what's going in there. And they said, oh, it's going to be an exhibition on the Leeds music scene, which really piqued my interest. And I thought, right, that's incredibly exciting. It'd be great to see the goth scene celebrated. And I was met with goth scene. It's like, why would we include the goth scene? And I said, because goth music as we know it started in Leeds. The revolution started here, and they were blown away and then said, we have to include it. But how? Because we're quite, advanced in the project. So it ended up being something that I said, I'll do it. And I said, I will pop something together and I will go into my vaults, ask my friends, and I want to do something that's kind of a little bit different, not anything that you would ordinarily see in a museum.
Yeah.
So I said, I want it to look like my bedroom. And it was covered in talcum powder and had cuts of posters. It was painted black, furniture, leather jackets, zines, vinyl, all that sort of stuff. And I also put a call out to all my friends who kindly gave me lots of artifacts. And then it grew and it grew. And the response was, can we do a concept event? Which we did. And it was a small marketplace with 5 stands or 6 stands. We had a few talks, one of which was we was incredibly honoured that Sophie Lancaster from the Sophie Lancaster Foundation came to speak about the foundation and their campaign around hate crime.
Mm-hmm.
And we also had a pop-up cinema from Hyde Park and talks from Rosie Garland, who is one of the singers from the March Violets. And it was just an absolutely brilliant event. And we was asked to do it again and again and again. And now we have a market which is potentially the largest alternative market in the north, with over 80 vendors, and we've done cabarets and all sorts of incredible things.
Wow. So from 2016, the idea has really grown, and there's obviously a want for that.
Absolutely. I mean, I think what happened particularly during lockdown is that we had to really refresh and rethink, how do we engage with the community? And the markets were the way to do that, because people could still go shopping and Leeds markets were open. And what it really shone a light on was the fact that the scene also wanted a place to flaneur. It was be able to get dressed up and engage, and sometimes not in a way where it's around drinking. It was a place where people could meet, and very, very age diverse as well.
Mm-hmm.
And what we found is that people utilised that forum to meet the community, and it just got bigger and bigger. And now we have waiting lists for stands, and it's just been a really useful platform to be able to launch other things off. So we do have the mural now in the market, which I never thought that would happen, and it's in place now, which is great.
That's fantastic. And so for people who don't know, Elizabeth, can you explain what the term goth means?
Goth means different things to different people. Personally, for me, it's a feeling. It's about how you are as a person. So it's not just about the music that you listen to or the way that you dress or what you read or what you watch. It can be all of those things, but it absolutely is a way of life. And I think that, people who don't necessarily know what goth means would sort of potentially look at the idea of a traditional goth with very dark makeup and dark hair. But
Mhm.
there are so many subgenres of Gothica, and the platform is there for everybody to take that as they wish. And personally, at our events, we have signs up which say, we celebrate and respect people of all cultures and subcultures.
Yeah,
So there isn't a hierarchy, and there are times but it's not something that's often spoke about. But within the subcultures, there often can be a hierarchy. You're not goth enough,
right.
you are. That's not our type of goth, and it can be quite a complex environment where people interpret it in different ways. And for me, if you identify with the goth culture but your love is gothic literature, your place is valid. If you are somebody that dresses and lives and breathes the goth scene, your place is valid. And it's about mutual respect. And there's a lot of crossover with other areas. There are people that are hugely into goth music but are also geeky and nerdy. So it's a real platform place for people to meet and just enjoy and celebrate their interests.
Yeah, I looked up on Urban Dictionary, and I quite like their definition. I don't know what you think of this, but it says a goth is someone who sees beauty in the dark side. What do you think of that?
I think that's perfect. I think it is this feeling of, I personally wear corsets every day and I love dressing up. Now, I wouldn't say that that's a particular era. It moves from being sometimes Tudor to being sort of 90s new, a 90s look. It
Mhm.
very, very much varies, and the fashion is embedded in that, but the foundation is darkness. It is a love and appreciation of darkness and the macabre. But I think a lot of people are quite surprised when they speak to people that are massively into Gothica that there is also an appreciation of light. You can't see the stars at night without the dark. There has
Yeah,
to be balance, and how people's interests flow into things like paganism and Wicca. There's a lot of natural crossover, and it's a scene that some people can be quite frightened of, where actually a lot of people that I know that have vended at our markets that haven't been particularly goth but maybe alternative, they've the vintage traders who are selling curio, some of them have been just completely blown away by the scene and how kind and welcoming people are, how passionate they are about their lifestyle and the way that they want to dress their homes, that just how they live. So it's lovely to see people understand and appreciate this scene.
yeah, definitely. I suppose in many ways, the love of Gothica kind of affects everybody's life in a small way. Like you said, like I particularly love the novels, Dracula and Jekyll and Hyde, and everybody at Halloween obviously gets involved a little bit, don't they?
I mean, if you think about it, let's think about Halloween now. I mean, a lot of goths would say that's my version of Christmas.
Yeah.
Um, but you look at the rise of Halloween and how it's big business. I mean, I have to say that's sometimes a good thing, sometimes a bad thing. I
Mhm.
mean, when it's something that you do every day, there are, and I've had comments where it's not Halloween yet in February because of the way that I dress, and sometimes you do feel a little bit precious about it. But it's great
Right.
that people celebrate, but we also have to recognize that that is also, Samhain is a pagan festival, and
Mhm.
there's a lot of people that celebrate that, absolutely. So it's just understanding that as well.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. And Elizabeth, can you tell us a little bit about why Leeds is particularly connected with the idea of Gothica?
So, the Leeds bands all started in Leeds. They started here, and that revolution kind of came. So you've got the likes of the Sisters of Mercy, who most people will know, who don't particularly like to be associated with goth, but
Really?
but it is the old. It's for me. It's about us embracing alternatives. So although I would say that we lead on Leeds Festival of Gothica, a lot of our work is about embracing the alternative scene as a whole, and that's important because that includes all the different aspects. But you've got all the big playing bands that kind of archetypally sum up that scene: the March Violets, the Rose of Avalanche, Salvation. Those bands are all getting a touring. People have either got back together, or there's been a real rejuvenation and interest,
Yeah.
and that's so important. I went up to an incredible venue called the Old Woolen in Farsley, and they had the Antenna Festival, and it was packed. And again, really age diverse, lots of people there, and I've started to see that interest being piqued again, which is great. And
Yeah, it must be fantastic to
you
see
look at
everything sort of come round again.
absolutely, and then there's you can't mention the bands without mentioning the key venues like um, the Lafono, and went on to Wendy House and the F Club, and there's all these incredible clubs and bars. I can't go through all of them to mention right now, but if people are interested, we did do a huge piece of community engagement around the alternative scene, and all of these places, from St George's Field to the Bally High Club, all of those places are covered in the Batwings at the Leeds Alternative Heritage of Leeds mural. So people can go down, have the photograph taken with that.
Oh, that's absolutely great. Really brilliant. And so, when you put on these festivals, what kind of things can people expect?
So what we try to do is make sure that all of our events where possible are free, because we do want people to be able to attend.
Yeah.
We also try and choose accessible venues. So Leeds Market event space is there, and there's sort of consideration that it is all on one level, that there are changing places there, that they've got accessible toilets. It's not too far for people to commute. Our flyers have accessibility maps on the back, so that's a really important part of what we have. What you expect to see is people really celebrating being alternative, and again, people, you can find the most weird and wonderful things at the markets. So we've got you could find glorious antiquity and curious to magical paraphernalia, latex, incredible different forms of art and jewelry. There is a real drive for me around sustainability, so it's great to see. We have lots of vintage clothing as well,
Yeah.
and one thing that I would really like to see, and it's a project that I'm hoping to work on in the future, is some ethical costuming around Halloween. We
Yeah.
see people really taking an interest in being more sustainable in their approach to life, and then at Halloween there are all these plastic packed costumes, and it's big business now. The idea of making your own costume, or potentially going somewhere like costume hire at West Yorkshire Playhouse, Leeds Playhouse, and hiring something and thinking about, no, I'm not going to buy another plastic costume. So we have thought about doing a costume exchange
Wow, that would
for
be great.
Halloween at the October market, where people can donate some of their old stuff and particularly pick up something new. And
Yeah.
that would be something that would be child friendly as well. And I think with the cost of living crisis, I think that could be a really a key part of our event.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree because the whole thing, like you say, you get yourself a costume. You're not going to want to wear it again the second year, but somebody else will be able to wear it.
Yeah, or you could rehash it. It's about ideas and about putting things together. I mean, I have a box of things, and sometimes you go into it and be like, right, I'm going to do this again, and really think about what you've got, rather than going and buying one of the plastic packed ones that you will wear once. And this idea of what that material is, and also as well, how often are you going to wear something? And when you look at cost per wear, those packs are around about £20, and you're wearing it once. So it's
Mm.
just kind of shining a light on, for me, that particular part of Halloween and how people celebrate.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, Elizabeth, I remember when I first moved to Leeds 20-ish years ago, I can remember being absolutely blown away by the massive group of people hanging around outside the Corn Exchange. Was that because the Corn Exchange was a particular venue that people were drawn to at that time?
Absolutely. So the whole, I would say that the Corn Exchange in the 90s was one of those venues that was a hub. It was where people met. It was where people shopped because they had so many eclectic shops like Grin. I mean, we would. It was almost a pilgrimage going into town to meet
Yeah.
friends, going to the shops to see what was available. There was, popping into the record shops, going to Crash, going to Jumbo, seeing what gigs were on. And it's kind of important to think about that. It was a real part of people's journey. And, over the years, that has not that's not the case now. The that kind of feeling for the Corn Exchange and the heritage of the Corn Exchange within the alternative scene, I'd love to bring some of that back, and I'd love to get the Corn Exchange involved in the project, just how important it was for a lot of people. I know particularly when we've been campaigning for images pre-2000 for the Alternative Image Library, the Corn Exchange is mentioned frequently. The shops of the Corn Exchange are mentioned frequently, and people will say, I used to get dropped off in town by my mum and dad, and they'd go have a coffee while I toured around. And not only was it about what you was buying, it was like seeing other people, what they were wearing, and getting the bus into town and putting on your best outfit, and just chatting to people. Huge social hub, incredibly important.
Yeah, definitely. Can you talk a little bit more about the archive that you're putting together and how people can get involved?
Yes, the idea of the archive was, it was something that I was sort of really aware of around, images, particularly pre 2000. Where are they all? And, let's get them together, because this is part of our alternative heritage and we should be shouting about it. We
Definitely.
should be celebrating it. And a big thing for me, you go to Liverpool, absolutely, from the rooftops, it's all around the Beatles and Merseybeat. Their tourism, the infrastructure of Liverpool is around celebrating that. You go to Manchester, and they bang the drum for the indie scene.
Yeah.
People are very much aware of that. And in Leeds, when you ask people, the people who know absolutely know, and are really, really keen on pushing that. But, from a kind of local authority point of view, it's not something that's really been on the radar. So the archive was kind of a way of doing that, which links to the mural. And what we wanted to do was put an open call out and say to people, what we really want is images of you, and some context. Where was you? What was you doing? You have to be in Leeds. That's one prerequisite of popping a photo in. But it can be anything. It could be a picture of a flyer from a club night. It could be at a venue, and not necessarily. It doesn't have to be a music venue. It could be Bear Pit, on Cardigan Road. It could be, at the Faversham, or any of those kind of things. F Club flyers, whatever it is that people have got. Just think, and gig tickets. Bobbing an image, we don't want the actual item, so we're not asking people to give up their alternative treasures. We're saying take a picture as long as you own it, and on your phone if you like, and send it in, and then we can include that within the archive to really just save everything for posterity.
Has it been a real joy for you looking through some of those submissions?
It's been brilliant, and I think that it's been, what's great is that there's been some lovely stories that have come from that. So when people have submitted images, there's been people who've said, "Oh, I really remember that. That's brought back a memory for me." And when we was putting the mural together, we had people that stopped and paused and were like, "Do you know what? I met the love of my life at that venue,
Oh,
or that particular song was one that was played at a funeral, and it has a real moment for me, but has lots of meaning. And there was other things that came up where, things that we weren't aware of, because it was, did you know about this? And then people wanted to stand and talk about it. So one of the things we would like to do, and this is kind of way down the line, is to actually think about, again, curating audio memories.
yeah.
So, having, with the archive of images, maybe some bolt on audio of people's context memories. And
Hmm.
I have two big plans. So my two big plans, and I know that they're not going to happen overnight, and not potentially in the sort of near distant future, but I would love to have some black plaques which commemorate the important places in the goth scene or alternative scene, and instead of light night, I would like dark night. I would
Oh, wow, that would be amazing. I mean, I love Light Night, but I love the idea already of Dark Night.
Yeah, Dracula on at the ballet, loads of gigs on in town, lots of themed parties. And I'd like that to be really um, age friendly as well. So, one of the things we trialled, which was at Whitby, when we took the festival on tour, we did a child friendly horror film festival,
Yeah,
and the idea of, it would be great where kids can get dressed up, and as a family friendly event could attend a screening of, it could be anything, we put on a whole host of films, but, it could be Labyrinth, there's been real rise in all sorts of different
yeah.
stuff. So, yeah, that would be something I would like to do. So I'm hoping that this podcast might help with that, from a city centre perspective on how we could um, get that moving.
That would be absolutely fantastic. And you mentioned Labyrinth, which is one of my all-time favourite films. I absolutely love that. That just sounds great. I really hope that that gets going, Elizabeth, because that would be just fantastic. And another great thing for, for Leeds to be doing, and also, like you said, to sort of celebrate the history of Leeds and its link with alternative culture.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's about tying into the fact that, we do have this incredibly rich cultural heritage and alternative heritage, where we have, all these amazing things that have happened, and, that's a platform to celebrate it. But also, as well, we do have the infrastructure as a city, as a diverse city, to be able to do something like that. You look at what's happened with Leeds 2023 and how people have got on board with it. You look at the interest that came with Eurovision. Leeds has the potential to do something. And that was really something that came to light for me when I looked at Whitby. Whitby is an incredible place that has people coming from all over the world, and they absolutely have their claim to the goth scene, with Bram Stoker writing Dracula there. It's a beautiful venue and has such a rich history and association with goth, but so does Leeds. And what Leeds has is the ability to be able to put on something really big. We know
Yeah,
we've got plenty of hotels, we've got lots of venues. It could really be, Dark Night could be something that I think could be a real draw, not only to celebrate our culture, but also for tourism and for people to come and sort of, take a look at, spending a weekend in the city, celebrating all the things that we love that are dark.
yeah, absolutely. I completely agree because because when I did a little bit of research for interviewing you, I mean, I like to think I know a lot about Leeds, but I had no idea that we were so intrinsically, the links were so prevalent. And then when you mentioned just earlier about the Faversham, I work at the University of Leeds, so I've gone for like sort of staff nights out at the Faversham so many times, and it wasn't until I was reading up that I realised the links. And like you say, it's just a shame that you don't want to lose that sort of history.
No, and that's kind of, for me, the idea is that what we need to do is, I mean, and the thing is that the Leeds scene is still thriving.
Hmm.
And what I'm so incredibly proud of is that we do have this really great set of promoters who work really well together. There's Joel from Goth City. We've got Den of Delirium, there was Sex Club, there was all these incredible club nights and promoters working together. There's um, Bunker 13. There's and everybody comes together to do things, and we work together to create, to have a calendar. And like one thing that's happened, which I'm so pleased about, is that I'll say I'm doing a market on the 18th, and then other people will say, right, let's work out what we can do to support that, to create a weekend of events where the promoters are working cohesively in harmony with each other,
Yeah.
and really, really supporting each other. So Zeitgeist Era are doing they've got a night on at Wharf Chambers where there's a set of gigs there. That's on the night of the market. And it's like, that's a reason to come to Leeds, if you're not from Leeds, but there's lots of stuff going on. So
Yeah.
it's the scene is still thriving now, but we also need to recognise what came before and really celebrate what came before.
Absolutely, 100% agree. Um, Elizabeth, you mentioned to me that you're a trustee of the Sophie Lancaster Foundation. Can you explain a bit about that, please?
Yeah, so the Sophie Lancaster Foundation is a foundation that was it was created in very tragic circumstances around the death of Sophie Lancaster, and Sophie was murdered for being different, and it was many people who are alternative will recall this.
Mhm.
It was covered quite recently on Coronation Street, so they almost replicated that story.
Oh,
And
really?
Sophie's mum, Sylvia, really wanted to make a difference. And while Sophie was in hospital, um, and she made a pledge that when Sophie recovered, that they would go around the schools and really talk about why being different is okay.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Sylvia never got to do that with Sophie because they had to make the very difficult decision to turn her life support off. So Sylvia, as a legacy to Sophie, set up the foundation and has been tirelessly working in schools and at events. Sylvia passed away last year, but the work of the foundation continues. And I was asked to join the foundation as trustee last year, and it was a really important thing for me. As I mentioned earlier on, Sylvia did come and speak at one of our events, and it is about, yes, we have this incredible scene, and people are very supportive of each other, but that isn't the case often
Hmm.
for people's experience of being alternative in a school with
Yeah.
regards to bullying and hate crime. It certainly isn't my experience of walking sometimes round the streets of Leeds, where people will make horrendous comments. When I was 14, I was stoned at a bus stop.
Oh,
It
God.
it has it has really dark and serious, very, very serious connotations. And
Yeah.
one thing that we want is for people to celebrate difference and to be inclusive. And I
Yeah.
think that message really is everybody should take away something from that. That's what, it's about how we deal with it, and about how we deal with that in a positive way.
Hmm.
And the foundation absolutely do that. It's about how do we move away from this, how do we make a difference, how do we change that narrative and make people think that actually the words that you say and your actions can have a serious impact. And does it really matter if somebody's got 10 piercings and they're wearing PVC trousers? Does it?
Yeah.
No, that's
Yeah.
just about somebody celebrating who they are. And I would say, as somebody that dresses very alternative, that I am really happy and love to see people dressing in very different ways. And I think it is a celebration. And if we can just sort of just think next time before you open your mouth and mock somebody, the impact of that. And, more seriously, when you look at how people have, when it comes down to somebody being murdered for how they dress,
Yeah.
it's poignant and it's something that we need to think about.
Absolutely. And it sounds like the work of the foundation is really necessary. I'll make sure I put lots of links in the podcast notes to everything that you've been
Yeah, and
talking
just an
about.
open call that, and this is for me to sort of listeners, is that, if you do have an alternative child, and we love to see, I love it when you have families that are not alternative and they're supporting, their alternative, family member in their choices. So, if it's their wedding, that they want to have a black wedding dress, and that they want things that are completely, maybe not what people would see as traditional, but they're fully supported with that.
Mhm.
That's lovely. When you go to Whitby, or you come to one of the markets and you see alternative kids with their parents who are not alternative, and they are really supporting those choices. That really does sort of, it means a lot to me when I see that.
Yeah,
It's super important. But there is a call, which is that, if you have a child in a school and you want the foundation to come in, that's something to think about. There's the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, which will be in the links. Think about having the foundation in to do some training. And yes, that training is about thinking about the impact of dress code, and and for alternative people. But again, it's that message about being kind and welcoming to everybody.
yeah, absolutely. Completely agree. So, yeah, people should get in touch. And Elizabeth, can I ask you, have you lived in Leeds all of your life?
I have indeed.
So that means that you are 100% qualified to answer the three questions that I ask every guest. The first one being, what would you say? I mean, I imagine that you kind of covered some of this, but what would you say is great about the city of Leeds?
Leeds is, I mean, I can't, obviously, as part of what we're doing, we cannot say that, it's the birthing of the, alternative and goth scene as we know it today, so that's something that's incredible that Leeds has offered. But I think it is a really vibrant and diverse city, and I love to see that kind of melting pot, which is like a bit of a microcosm of London, where
Yeah,
you do have that, except it's smaller, so you can get around. And there are lots of really great underground things going on. And another thing that I think is brilliant about Leeds is that, yes, we have that incredible buzzing city life, but also within 20 minutes you can be out in green spaces. So
yeah,
I think we've got the best of both worlds.
I absolutely agree. And if you had to choose something that you think is not so great, what would you go for?
I'm going to go for two things. So
Yeah,
one of them is that a lot of our alternative venues have closed down. So, we've seen in the last, particular due to COVID, we've lost a lot of our venues. So, places like Bad Apples and Fab Cafe. I mean, the Fab Cafe has been gone a long time. Carpe Diem. A lot of places where people would meet, they've unfortunately disappeared. So, that's something that I it upsets me, because
yeah,
I think we've got such a thriving community. So it'd be great to get some more alternative bars and spots in the city centre. And at the moment, I do think that it's quite difficult to get into the city centre from a transport perspective.
yeah,
Yeah, I think,
absolutely.
and I know that there are reasons for, that it's about development, but I do think it's a test right now. So it's something that I struggle with. You go into the city centre and roads are closed, and you end up back round the loop system. So I'm pretty sure the loop system in Leeds has been mentioned a few times.
If somebody had been a resident of Leeds for a really long time, would you be able to tell them about something that you would consider to be a hidden gem that they might never have heard of?
Yes. So I'm going to have to mention that it's not a hidden gem. It is the jewel in the Gothic crown. The alternative scene is the gem for Leeds. But if we're looking at venues, I am going to mention a place that's very close to my heart, which is Northern Guitars, which is a great little venue at the bottom of Call Lane, which has a guitar shop upstairs and then a bar downstairs. It is the place where I think most feels like home for me. It's, you can go down there and listen to live music. You have people from lots of different subcultures that meet down there, you know, from people that are into emo to metalheads. And it's a really nice venue. It's got some great artifacts on the wall, and it has some great music photos. It's just a nice, welcoming space that is also dog friendly.
Which is always a good thing. Yeah, I've been to Northern Guitars. It's absolutely fantastic. I totally agree with you. It's a brilliant venue, and you see some great bands there as well. So I always ask guests if there is a song by a Leeds-based artist or musician that they would like to feature. Can you tell me what you chose, Elizabeth, and why?
Yeah, so I've chosen Snake Dance by the March Violets. Very hard question for me because we've got so many incredible bands from Leeds. It was which one do I choose? But I did centre on this one because I love it. But also, I collect snake jewelry, so
Oh,
so I've got a huge slithering collection of snake jewelry, and my house is full of snaky artifacts, so it does have that to it as well. And as a little plug, the March Violets are back on tour, so I did kind of want to give them a light as well on this one.
fantastic. And Elizabeth, what will you be doing with the rest of your day today?
Oh, today unfortunately is a little bit boring. I've got a bit of cleaning to do, so nothing exciting. I work for the Leeds Older People's Forum, and Fridays are usually my day off. So I try and fit anything to do with the festival in if I've got anything on a Friday. So this was the thing that I was doing this morning, but unfortunately today I will be ironing. But I'll pop some music on and be just catching up on rather boring things, unfortunately.
Well, we can't all be super doing interesting things all the time, can we? Thank you so very much for coming to speak to me. It's been really revealing and interesting. I'll make sure I put lots of links in the podcast notes, and I can't wait to come to the next Festival of Gothica.
Is it possible for me to say that the next event is on the 18th of March at Leeds Markets, and it's free to attend? We would love people to come down and have their picture taken with the mural, and also, you know, just follow the Instagram, which is at Leeds Festival of Gothica.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'll make sure I put all that typed up as well. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, and I hope your ironing goes quickly.
Thank you.
Elizabeth really was the most fascinating guest. I don't know about you, but I learned a lot about Leeds in that episode. As usual, there are links in the podcast notes for everything that Elizabeth mentioned. The next Alternative Market by Leeds Festival of Gothica and Advantageous takes place in the market, Kirkgate Market. That's on Saturday, the 18th of March from 10 until 4:30. I will definitely be going along myself. Elizabeth chose the track Snake Dance by the March Violets, who are a rock band formed in Leeds in 1981. Even though this track was made in 1981, I still think it rocks, and it is perfect for this episode. Have a great week, Leeds. Look after each other, look after yourself, and I will speak to you soon.